Good afternoon, everybody. My co-panelists, I will not take it for granted an opportunity to be in this platform by DSA, Dr. David Akitayo. Thank you. I hope people will give me an opportunity to share my experiences and their questions. My name is Adebayo Adefedi. I'm an accountant, a banker. I've done a lot in auditing and taxation. I know a little bit of necessaries when it comes to even IGR for state government, that's internal revenue generation. But my passion ordinarily is enlightenment. I like to enlighten people about taxation. It's an area I believe we can do better as practitioners in that industry. As I said, I live in a guest hostel. My wife and 3 daughters. I'm the only man amongst them. So I get a lot of care and attention. And I love God. I think that just talks about me.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. You're welcome once again. Mr. Kelvin, may we meet you, please?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olafusi Kelvin Kayode. I appreciate the opportunity to be on this platform, and I do not take it for granted. I'm an accountant and a tax practitioner with over 10 years experience, and I'm currently the managing partner of Olu Kayode Olafusi & Co. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So, from the previous session, we're talking basically, if you notice from the last speaker, Mr. Mohammed, he spoke about financial management. So in this session, we're going to be talking about, finance and funding. It's very important that you take your financial management very serious. The earlier you start, the better for you. So I have some few questions for you, Mr. Kayode and Mr. Kelvin. So I'll be asking simultaneously, right? I hope you're okay with that. I'll be asking simultaneously. So I'm going to be starting with Mr. Adebayo. The first question I want to ask you is, what are the most common tax compliance issues that startups face? What are the most common tax compliance issues that startups face?
Thank you again. Because you have used the word startups, that means new.
Yes.
Maybe it's time and I want this to be like a foundational statement for me. Maybe it's time we go back to the basics.
Okay.
Let's start teaching civics and moral education at nursery and primary schools. Because when you do that, part of your obligation as a responsible citizen is to pay your tax. And then we start teaching taxation in the secondary school. And in every higher institution, we make taxation an award certificate issue. That way, within 16 years, we will have churned out graduates that are very knowledgeable on taxation. We also know of the fact that, and this is the issue of which one comes first, is it the chicken or the egg? Do I need to pay my taxes before the government gets to use it well or be accountable? But I've also come to realize if right now we have less than 30% of people paying their taxes, there isn't enough for the government. The next thing you say, what have they shown? But by the time we have about 80 to 90% of us paying our taxes, it becomes a lot easier to make government to be accountable. Having said that, we need to have a manual in whatever we do in life. Engage yourself in knowing. It's your responsibility to know. Don't leave it to anybody. It's good to, you will always need specialists, that is the accountants and consultants, but you need to know yourself. That way, it becomes a lot easier, even for that consultant to, because your consultant will be much more fruitful in attending to your needs if he sees that you are willing. In my practice, whenever I get engaged by any client, I tell you anything and everything. So whether you are taking me on a full all or just a bit of some aspects, let it not be that you don't know. So the most important thing, and then when we talk about compliance, where you know everything, it becomes a lot easier, whether it's a monthly filing for your VAT or withholding tax, or the annual returns at the end of the year, where you know that if you don't do it by the 6th month of the next year, then there is a penalty or interest that will go with it. Or the daily, the monthly that you need to do by the State Internal Revenue Services by paying your PAYE. Do you understand? You need to register both at the state and the federal level. And if it's an enterprise, you need to register it with federal, because your VAT is still necessary to be to file on a monthly basis. Thank you. Let me just talk about that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. You see, he went back to this basis of, tax, and, it's important that we know that as individuals, even as a company, we should take our taxes serious. So I have a question for you, Mr. Kelvin. Mr. Kelvin, I have a question for you. Can you provide tips for ensuring timely and accurate tax filing? Because you mentioned you're an accountant, right? So can you provide tips for ensuring timely and accurate tax filings? Are you with me, Mr. Kaido? Okay. I think the network, I think he's having network issues. So I'm gonna continue with you, Mr. Adebayo. I'm gonna continue with you. So that question was supposed to go to Mr. Kelvin, but I'm gonna shoot that question to you because I believe that you've given us the intro already. So let's just take it up from there while we wait for Mr. Kelvin to join us. All right. So can you provide tips to ensuring timely and accurate tax filings? Can you?
When you say you can't have a competent taxman that is not a very knowledgeable accountant. So if you want to have not to be on the wrong side of the law, then you must have a very comprehensive means of bookkeeping. Because I have a joke, I always say, accountants do it by analysis. Once you keep your records, it could just be in simple manual form, not to talk of nowadays that there are 1,001 softwares that you can use for every transaction that has any tax implication. Once you know so, just keep the records appropriately. What that does for you is, with little efforts, at the appropriate time of meeting up with your filing, it's just like bread and butter. It will not be much of a problem in you achieving it. Once you, for instance, for PAYE, by the 14th of the next month, you should pay it. But if you have not paid your salary, please communicate it. Never you neglect any letter from any tax authority without responding to it, because there is always an implication or a consequence for that negligence. And it is unnecessary once you communicate. And it's your right, it's your responsibility, no matter what you don't know. The tax authorities are there to enlighten you. But unless you engage them, and that's what I'm saying, try to know it yourself. Good to have even if you have your consultant, engage that consultant. And if it's your accountant that is there, sit down with him or her. Please tell me, what is this? Some people may make simple comments that, oh, I did government contracts. They have deducted VAT. They have deducted withholding tax, and I don't have any problems again. My dear sir, my dear ma, you still have many responsibilities. All that had happened is just upfront deduction, so that when it is time for you to play your own responsibility, some money had been put aside for you. I rest my case.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Ima, I want to
I didn't hear that, sir.
I said Ima.
All right,
now.
proceed.
Since Oga Kevin is not around now, what that means is, just know that
he just joined us.
No, now I wanted to say that at least maybe the biscuits and Fanta that you want to give me through Zoom, I will.
My boss, Amarando.
I was already planning the ration of the biscuit that she will give me.
Thank you,
I'm sure it was network, but he's around now. Okay,
exactly.
Mr. Kelvin, welcome back. Welcome back. We've missed you for a minute. And we missed you for a minute. Mr. Adebayo was giving us some, details about tax. And I wanted to ask you a question that relates more to your field, but he has already given us insights. But I'm going to proceed to the next question, which says, how should startups handle sales tax, right? For online sales, especially when selling across states or international borders?
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Adebayo has already laid down the foundation of taxes and compliance, which is a very good one. Sales tax in Nigeria, we call it value added tax, that is VAT. When sales, it's just a sales on consumption. Sales, that is, when activities is being rendered, you take up the percentage, which is normally 7.5% from such sales. Now, the thing is this, when there's a sales, either a physical sale, online sales, or trans-border sales, the law permits that value-added tax should be added to your invoice value. Take, for instance, maybe the sales is 100 naira, then you have the value-added tax, which is 7.5% to it when you are invoicing the client. Now, that money which you have added, the 7.5 which you have added, is not your money as a company. You are just an agent of collection. You are collecting that money on behalf of government, and it is expected of you that you should remit that money back to Federal Inland Revenue Service. Again, there's something we call output VAT and input VAT. I don't want to go too deep. So because this is just an elementary class, output VAT is the VAT you charge on your sales, while the input VAT is the VAT that you paid on your purchases. Normally when the two comes together, then you have your net VAT to be paid. That is the VAT that you remit to Federal Inland Revenue Service. But in everything that you do with Federal Inland Revenue Service, time is very important. Taxes is all about timing and date. The law says that you should file your returns, that is your value-added tax returns, 21 days after the transaction. They take, for instance, now, all the transactions for the month of July. You must file the VAT returns by August 20, not later than on or before August 21, which means if you do anything other than that after that date, for what? For late filing. And again, if you don't file appropriately, there is also penalty. When your returns are failed, or when you delete the return you are filing when it is failed, the penalty is 50,000. And subsequently, the penalty is 25,000, which means, take for instance, now somebody that's supposed to file 10,000 naira as VAT, but you fail in your filing, definitely you are paying additional 50,000 as penalty for late filing in the first month. That is in the first month. And if it continues like that, that means 25,000 naira subsequently will be added. And don't forget, even that 10,000 naira, by the time you will be paying the 10,000 naira, it is possible that you are still going to pay interest and penalty on it, on that 10,000 naira. So in most cases, it is good for companies to know what to do and to know when to do it. When you know what to do and know when to do it, then there will not be problem. Even though you are going to engage the service of a consultant, having adequate knowledge of what the law says is very important. Like my Oga said, adequate knowledge of the tax law, when to do something and how to do it. Then if you are in doubt or if you cannot do it appropriately, then you can now be talking of engaging a tax consultant to help you out. Now, when you are transacting trans-border transaction, there's something we call non-resident filing. When you are having transaction with somebody or somebody that is outside the shore of Nigeria is having transaction with you. Take for instance, if the person that is enjoying the service is in Nigeria here, it is expected of that person outside there that is in business with you to add VAT to its invoice value. Then when the person adds VAT to the invoice value, then you can help the person to pay the VAT because the company outside does not have residence in Nigeria. So you help the person, the company, or the individual to pay the VAT because you are the one that the person rendered the service to. Then you help the person to pay the VAT. So all this and that, local sales attract VAT. Also, international service attract VAT. So also international service attract VAT. So that is the way we normally do it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that insight. So one more question for you. I still have one more question for you. Okay, so what are the tax implications for startups looking towards expanding internationally?
Okay, when you are trying to expand internationally, one, you need to inform Federal Revenue Service that that the company is about to have international transaction, or you are trying to expand internationally. And apart from that, another thing that is very important that company must do after expansion is in the area of filing. There's something we call country-by-country reporting. Country-by-country reporting is just a kind of filing for the home-based company here when you have a partner, or where you have a subsidiary, or your parent company is outside the shore of Nigeria. And also we have transfer pricing. When you are dealing with international organization, there's need for transfer pricing, disclosure, and declaration. All these filings are very important. But before we can even be talking about these filings, you need to first write a letter to Federal Inland Revenue Service. Federal Inland Revenue Service needs to know that you are having an international affiliation, that there's something you are doing with company that is outside the shore of Nigeria, so that after then you will now the normal filing can now come into play. the filing, the country by country, and the transfer filing can come into play. And mostly it comes at the end of the accounting period. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Adebayo, I have one more question for you. One more question, and then we'll call it a day. I had lots of questions, but due to our time, we're trying to manage time. Just as we are managing our finances, time management is also important. You agree with me? So, Mr. Adebayo, I have one question for you, and it says, what are the best practices for financial records? Let me take that again. What are the best practices for maintaining financial records for tax purposes?
Well, thank you for that question. When you say best practices for
for maintaining financial records, for tax records.
Before I answer that, I'd like just to make a comment in addition to what Oga Calvin said. I think concerning international relationships, we also want to know to what extent is whether there is a taxation treaty between Nigeria and that institution. And that country, what that does is, for instance, if like UK now, we have a relationship, we have an understanding, but there are some few countries that we don't. So you need to know the status of the country you are relating with, whether there is taxation treaty between Nigeria or not. Back to my question. The simple thing is, don't be caught on the wrong side of the law. Ignorance is not even an excuse in law. You have your debit, you have your credit. For VAT, you have VAT input, you have VAT output. Before you make your filing, before you can claim the VAT input, you need to make sure that the cost of sales or the purchases are well documented to show that you have paid VAT on it before. And tax avoidance and tax evasion, one is a crime, the other is a management. And everybody should try and do tax management. Let me give you an instance. Several years ago, there was an issue that had to do with LRS and my accounting firm. And they levied my client on PAYE liabilities with interest and penalties. And the only thing I had to defend that my client is, can't you see that this company has not even paid the salaries? So if I've not paid salary, I can be talking about the remittance of the PAYE on it, that's pay as you earn. So we must keep very clean, open records, transparent. Once you do that, it becomes a lot easier. And there's not like best practice, it's just the right practice. I don't want to use the word best practice, it's the right practice. Debit is expense or asset. Credit is income or liability. Recognize every tax liability attached to every transaction that has any tax implication. Once you do that, do you know that you can, if the truth is you don't even have financial capacity to pay that liability, because you can make profit in the books and the cash flow may not be available. You write to the tax authority that I have made a profit of 20 million and the liability on it maybe it's 5 or 6 million, but please bear with me. This is my condition. I do not have cash to pay it. He who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Communicate with the tax authorities. Let them know your condition. No, the authority doesn't want you to come and pay your liabilities with borrowed monies. No. And that's why in most instances now, especially for VAT, it's now on a cash basis. We have, after some years now, moved away from accrual basis. Cash basis means it is because I have the cash, that is why that established liability becomes payable. And that's my case.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sure we've learned a lot so far. I'm sure we've learned a lot. Please, can we give them a round of applause? Can we give them a round of applause? I'm sure we've learned so much. A round of applause. Trust me that your tax is as important as the business, right? Taking note of these things early enough and knowing them early enough will save you. You heard him say something about, writing to the board that you've made so and so amount of money. And Mr. Kelvin also emphasized on bookkeeping, right? Keep your books. Your financial records are important. This is one of the ways you can manage your finances. And I have learned so much. Mr. Kelvin Kayode, any last words for us as we wrap up this panel session? Any last words, 1 or 2 things that you can,
Thank you very much. What I will say is this. You see, as a business owner, you need to start right. When you are starting your business, you need to start it right. Because when you get it wrong from the beginning, there will be a problem. And starting it right, you need to have the right information. The information at your disposal is very important. Don't leave everything to the hand of your consultant. You too, you need to be well informed. You need to acquire knowledge. And again, after acquiring knowledge, you need to do the right thing. Most of the business owners we have in Nigeria, they don't like doing the right thing. I can say that with putting my hand in my chest, that they don't like doing the right thing. But we need to cultivate the habit of doing the right thing. When you do the right things at times, even though doing the right thing can even save you some cost. But if you fail to do the right thing, you will incur unnecessary liability that the company is supposed not to incur. And when you are in doubt, there's no problem by you consulting an expert, a tax consultant, to put you through when you know you are in doubt. And in all, you need to be deliberate as to what you want to do. Do you want to do the right thing or what? You need to be deliberate. And at the end of the time, we get the right result. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for them, please. A round of applause. Trust me, the information you are getting here, trust me, if you were to go on your own, you know how much you pay for them. These are top experts in the field of compliance and taxation. Please, a round of applause in the comment section. A round of applause using your clapping emojis. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Kelvin. Thank you so much, Mr. Adebayo. It's a privilege to host you. Thank you so much. I was really enlightened. I'm sure the audience are